So this is going to be another podcast style video where I give my opinion on several different topics that I don't feel deserve a full video. So I want to first discuss Young Miami and Diddy. So I spoke on this briefly in a private Chrissy After Dark live stream, but I want to speak on it more because Young Miami just keeps on embarrassing herself with her one-sided public affection for Diddy. And the most recent display is her holding up a sign for him at the BET Awards as he was performing. And I do see a few black women saying she's not truly taking him seriously and they're both using each other and having fun and enjoying it while it lasts. And maybe they're right, but even if that's the case, Miami is still doing too much in my opinion, and she's making herself look very desperate because Diddy is not returning the love. I mean, even when he accepted his Lifetime Achievement Award, he actually gave a shout out to Cassie, and she is an ex-girlfriend and has been for quite a while. And I know him and Miami have a pretty new relationship, but the optics of that looked very bad on her. And who knows what Diddy is telling Miami in private, but if he is keeping it private, then she should do the same. Now, a photo op together is cool here and there, but publicly arguing over him like she was doing and all of this public adoration, absolutely not. It's not fitting to the City Girl brand. And some of the girls apparently are saying that Miami and Diddy are relationship goals. Let's just be real. Diddy is high earning, but he's not a high quality man. He is a type of high value man that women should relegate to being a sugar daddy and nothing more. And that's only if you can handle that type of relationship dynamic. Because I do sense that Diddy preys on a lot of younger women and he seeks to control them, which can be one of the downsides to an age gap relationship with older men and much younger women, or trying to keep an older man as a sugar daddy. I'm just going to be honest with you. Only women with a certain mindset can handle that kind of relationship. You really have to have the kind of personality that I think most women just don't have. You have to have a level of detachment. You really can't let your feelings get the best of you. And that's way easier said than done for most women, especially when they're young and especially when the man has a ton of money. But I've met a couple of sugar babies and they're pretty ruthless. Like, you have to have that kind of mindset. Sugar daddies are for spending money and having fun, not for feelings. And even if you don't explicitly state the sugar arrangement and you want to make him believe that you're feeling him more than you are, or you want to give him the quote unquote girlfriend experience, because I know some sugar babies do that. If he's not doing the whole girlfriend experience with you publicly, then he needs to stay in the background. And it's not like Miami needs the money. You know, she's rich herself. She's not in a position where many women are, where they would feel like they would have to do what she's doing. And even if you're not rich like her, you should still not be giving out one-sided public displays of affection to a man. You should have a lot more dignity than that, in my opinion. And I know what I'm suggesting is easier said than done for young women like Miami, who get to be around a man who is as influential as Diddy, a man who is that famous and has that much money. I get it. I truly do. But I just wish that she would get out of that situation if she can't handle what comes with it. And I was curious to know Young Miami's sign, and she is an Aquarius. And they generally are very lighthearted when it comes to relationships. Megan Thee Stallion, she's also an Aquarius. And you see how in the beginning we saw her with one man and then she was with another and she was on to the next. Of course, until she settled down with Party, but you can tell she took a very lighthearted approach to dating. The way Miami is interacting with Diddy, on the other hand, is embarrassing. It looks very, very one-sided. You don't get that same fun, lighthearted feeling that you got with Megan Thee Stallion. Even on her new show, she told him that they go together and he said to her face that he's single. I was watching the live stream that they did together and she was complimenting him over and over and over again. He didn't give her one compliment back. So even if it's not intentional, it just looks bad, and she needs to get the head, get the bread, then leave, like she says in the song. Furthermore, we see how Diddy treats people professionally. We see what he did with Cassie and all of the other people he used for business. When they don't reach the level of fame he thinks they should, he kind of just discards them and he throws them in the trash. He's very opportunistic. He's self-absorbed. He's a perpetual bachelor. He's just not the kind of man any woman should take seriously, wealthy or not. And I understand that he's helping her expand rebrand her brand with a talk show on his network. But personally, I don't see the show taking off. I could be wrong. I just don't see it. From what I saw, I don't see it. And I think Miami is better suited doing music and selling merchandise, not doing shows or podcasts or live streams with Diddy. And I saw where she dragged all of the women who pretty much said what I just said. And she basically said that they couldn't tell her shit because they're broke. And we have all been there. We've all been young, thinking we know it all. And we don't like to take advice from other women, especially older women. So y'all tried, we tried. And she says that we're broke and we can't tell her nothing. So there's nothing more we can do. She'll just have to learn on her own, like most young women. And hopefully it won't be the hard way. So those are my thoughts on that. So there were a lot of Black women who were upset with Normani for dancing in a video with Chris Brown. And obviously it's because of his history of putting hands on Rihanna, as well as the incident where he refused to allow dark-skinned Black women to sit in his section at the club. And then a while back, he also sang about only wanting women with good hair. So ever since then, Chris and his PR team have been pandering to Black women and trying to get him back in our good graces. And this time they used Normani to do that. And even though I think Normani looks great in the video, she's a beautiful love interest. I think the dance scene was perfect. She did a very good job. I think she's great representation for dark-skinned women. I would have preferred that she not do it, but I also understand business. Normani is already having a hard time staying relevant as an artist, as a dark-skinned woman in the industry. And I'm gonna just keep it real. I don't expect her or any other Black woman in the industry to turn down working with Chris Brown, especially if Rihanna and Black people have not canceled him. In the 7 years I've been doing commentary on YouTube, I have learned that these Black women, they're not going to turn down any jobs in the name of colorism, in the name of misogynoir. They are just not going to do it, y'all. And what's more, they're not going to cancel the men who are actually responsible for it. So it's like, if we're not going to cancel the men, what do you expect these women to do? And I've spoken before about how Normani, to me, receives an unwarranted amount of criticism from Black women. I know it's not just Black women, but I'm talking about Black women in particular. I feel like we expect her to be perfect, but we don't seem to require that from other female artists. And a few years ago, I may have had a different stance on this, but what I've learned is that Black women, we aren't really serious about canceling most celebrities, especially when they are colorist men or abusive men like Chris Brown. If Black women were serious about canceling Chris Brown, it would have happened after the Rihanna incident. And when it comes to colorism, dark-skinned women in particular are very selective about our outrage. You drag Normani for working with Chris Brown, but you will clap for Rihanna's relationship with A$AP Rocky, who is also a colorist. You will stand Rihanna, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, all of these other light-skinned and mixed-race women who are colorists or get with colorist men, but will drag Normani for working with a colorist. I remember when Black women were outraged at Kelly Rowland for supporting Chris Brown right after he had been accused of not letting dark-skinned women in his section at the club. And I remember so many Black women were saying they were going to stop supporting him. And I already didn't keep up with Chris Brown, so I just continued to do that. And I never knew what was going on with him until he made headlines for doing something wrong. But when his recent video came out with Normani, and I saw y'all saying that he also recently worked with Chloe and other women, which I didn't know about that either, but that's what let me know that it was fake outrage, because y'all didn't make this much fuss about him working with anyone else. Not to the point where the gossip channels and the shade room were sharing it, and there was all of this discussion on Twitter. So there's just no consistency and loyalty from dark-skinned women for their own image, which is why it's crazy to even see y'all chastising Normani. And I know some of you are consistent, but many of you just hold dark-skinned women to a higher standard than you hold colorist men, as well as the non-dark-skinned women they work with. And I personally think it's a very bad look for dark-skinned women to go after another dark-skinned woman harder than you do other women who affiliate themselves with colorist men. And some women are saying, oh, well, those women are light-skinned and Normani is dark-skinned, so she shouldn't have done it and it's worse for her to do it. And that confuses me as well, because many times when we are having these colorism discussions, people always say that dark and light-skinned women are in this together and we're all sisters and it's all this kumbaya, but only dark-skinned women are expected to hold colorist Black men accountable, and only dark-skinned women are expected to forego their opportunity opportunities if it means working with colorist men, but nobody else is. And it's like, if we're in this together, shouldn't we all be held to the same standard? And after doing this work for so long, I just think Black women want to complain about colorism and colorist Black men, but you don't want to actually withdraw your support from colorist men, nor the women that they date or they affiliate themselves with, the non-dark skinned women. Even if it's not intentional, it comes across as you expressing your own internalized colorism and self-hatred, and it starts to look like you're projecting that onto other dark-skinned women. And let's just be honest, that is what a lot of this is. You're harder on women who look like you because of your own self-hatred. And I feel like dark-skinned women really need to unpack that and be honest with yourselves, because I see y'all doing that a lot to Normani. You're allowing all of these mixed race artists to be mediocre as they want to be, without any pushback or very little pushback, but expecting Normani to move mountains, clocking her on every move that was inspired by Beyonce or some older female artist, but Chloe can be literally a carbon copy of Beyonce and y'all still stand. And this is part of why dark-skinned women will always finish last, because you don't know how to act in your own self-interest. You'd rather obsess over women who don't look like you and give them passes on shit that you don't excuse from your own image. And look, I also want a better team for Normani. I want some better songs. I want everything that you want for her career, but the way y'all drag her is excessive in my opinion. Now, let's move on to the black male pushback on Twitter about all of the biracial men that were recently drafted in the NBA. And if you've been listening to me for a while, you know that I have talked about this before in the past extensively. I did a video 4 years ago about black men breeding sons that will replace them. I also did a 2-part video on how dark-skinned men in the NBA ostracize and poke fun at Steph Curry and other light-skinned men in the NBA. And I also included an audio of them admitting that they do so. I also did a video about Kwame Brown about a year ago, about all of his quote-unquote jokes about mixed and light-skinned men in the NBA. And that was around the time where he first came out on YouTube and he was responding to and going hard at Matt Barnes, calling him Becky with the good hair and all that stuff. But whenever dark-skinned black women talk about mixed women and light-skinned women and colorism and erasure in the media, we are always told that we're bitter, we're jealous, we have low self-esteem. But now black men are starting to sound just like us because it's them being erased and replaced in the media. You guys have to keep in mind that dark-skinned black men have dominated the sports arena, especially for a very long time. They've dominated black media in general when it comes to black male representation, but especially in the sports arena. Dark-skinned men have always prided themselves on being the most masculine, the most athletic, the strongest men on the planet. So now that light-skinned men, and specifically biracial men, are seemingly beginning to take over, we're starting to see dark-skinned men get upset about it. And it's interesting because most of those biracial men have dark-skinned black fathers, because we know that black men are making most of the half-black children. So they are now complaining about the men who they produced with non-black women. And I did a video a few years back on how black men want light-skinned daughters and dark-skinned sons. Many of them want to sleep with and procreate with non-black women, but they want their sons to somehow come out dark-skinned like them. They basically want to produce a black boy without a black woman. Obviously, like everyone else, they want their image to be replicated. And they also do not want to be erased and replaced in the media. See, it wasn't a problem when their mixed-race daughters were replacing dark-skinned women in the media. But when their sons start replacing them, all of a sudden, black people need to stop swirling because the black race is going to go extinct and we need to stop breeding ourselves out. Suddenly, that matters now that their image is being replaced. And I didn't see anybody calling them bitter, insecure, or jealous under this post on Twitter. But this is why I always laugh when black men ask me and other dark-skinned women, well, how are you going to encourage dark-skinned women to swirl and create the same light-skinned women you complain about? What, like black men are doing? Like black men did and are still doing with their sons? This is why I said a long time ago, they're really not in the position to question us about that when they make more biracial children than anyone. While they very clearly have an issue issue with light-skinned men and the mixed men that they produce. The majority of black women having babies are having black babies. The black women who swirl are in the minority. Black men are swirling at 3 times the rate, which is why it's dumb to tell black women not to swirl to quote unquote save the black race. Because we can't do that by ourselves, and we can't control black men who are making the black race go extinct quicker than anyone. It's not up to only one half of the community to make sure black people don't go extinct. And I don't believe in restricting black women's options when black men are already running around here talking about how they don't date dark-skinned women and how white women and non-black women are better. And they're creating biracial light-skinned children with those women. Biracial people are going to be here. Black people are not going extinct anytime soon. And the smartest thing we can do is refuse to allow them to represent black people in the media. And by the looks of things, that's way easier for black women to do than black men, because there's really nothing they can do about light-skinned men being elevated in sports, because it's based on athleticism. Dark-skinned women, on the other hand, can withdraw support from entertainment that erases us in the media. We can protest online like we've been doing. As we can see, it's been working. The people who are represented in sports is much harder to control. So it'll be interesting to see how black men navigate this. Not my fight, so best luck to them. Now, I want to talk about the Monique and DL Hugley situation. It happened earlier this month. As I'm sure most of you know, there was some confusion between them regarding who was going to headline a comedy show that they were both doing. And it ended in this big blow up and back and forth because Monique called out DL Hugley in a comedy show. She threw shots at his wife, brought up some past issues with him and his daughter. His daughter responded, and since then, Monique has apologized to his daughter, which I think was the right thing to do. And personally, I would never cape for DL Hugley. He has made some very anti-black woman remarks, so I would never defend him, and I don't even think he deserved black women to jump to his defense in this situation. Even if Monique was wrong, you don't always have to take a side, black women. But I'm noticing that this behavior has become a pattern with Monique and her husband. And even though I think they have the right to speak publicly about all of the shady industry shit that goes on behind the scenes, or the discrimination like she did with Netflix, I do think that the way she and her husband are going about it is helping to sabotage her career. And to me, there is a difference between refusing to play the game or going along to get along and just flat out being loud and confrontational and disrespectful every time you feel you've been wronged. Because even if you're right, it's going to start looking like you're just difficult to work with. And that's a very bad position to be in when you are desperate for work and money. And I've said this before when Monique boycotted Netflix and she said she was hurting for money. I really think that this stems from the fact that she married hypogamously or married down and her husband is managing her career or mismanaging her career. I think she's frustrated because she is the breadwinner in the relationship and she's no longer making what she feels is enough to sustain the lifestyle that she is accustomed to. And I think her husband, he obviously wants to get paid as much as he can. And it's also possible that he's negotiating her deals in a way that makes him feel more powerful in the relationship and simultaneously sabotaging her current and future opportunities and helping to damage her reputation in the industry. Not blaming it all on him, but I do think that he's a big part of it. And reputation is everything. Like DL said, everybody was telling him not to work with her. That's a very bad place to be in for somebody who is in the industry that Monique is in. And I don't know what's going on, if she didn't manage her money correctly in the beginning, if she didn't make any investments. I don't know what her and her husband are spending money on. Maybe he's mismanaging the money. Maybe they both are. But it's giving that she's very pressed for money, and being in a hypogamous relationship makes it worse. And like I said, it's not even that I disagree with everything Monique and her husband are saying about the industry. It's just that I don't think it's going to get them where they want to be in the long run. They are not moving strategically at all in terms of business. And I hope that they are able to level up, make some investments with the money they just made from the Netflix settlement. I hope that 50 Cent makes good on his promise and you know, gives Monique a role in one of his shows, because she really has burned a lot of bridges. Now, moving on to Saucy Santana. I am not familiar with this man at all. I'm not even sure what he does, to be honest. I don't care to know, which is why I didn't research it. But he's recently gone viral for some resurfaced tweets that he made about Northwest being cuter than Blue Ivy. He also said that black women need to get their hair permed. And he recently said that gay men are the blueprint because black women go to them to get our hair done and our makeup done. And look, I have been telling black women for years that both gay men and trans women, many of them are very misogynistic. Many of them are anti-black women in general. And I was met with a lot of resistance and criticism from black women when I said that. I don't know, I guess y'all weren't ready to hear it. But since they've been a lot more vocal with their misogynoir in recent years, many of you are finally starting to push back. They are not only anti-black women, but they think they are superior to you. Even as they emulate you, they think they are better than you. And they are competing with you for men as well. That's where a lot of this cattiness is coming from. And their jealousy and misogyny tends to get swept under the rug or hidden behind black women's homophobia. So because of that, we never get to talk about it honestly without being accused of being homophobic. Like I said before, they are weaponizing homophobia and transphobia at this point. But all of the phobias and the isms we complain about, sexism, colorism, misogyny, all of that exists in the LGBT community as well. And I've seen some black women make excuses for Saucy Santana, saying he was right about black women going to the gays for our hair and our makeup and how we use a lot of their lingo. And even if it's true, it's not altogether a good thing because many gay men actually overdo black women's hair and makeup to the point it takes away from our beauty. And I've said this before and I got a lot of backlash. I don't care. Some of that makeup looks terrible. The over contouring, the eyelashes, the lace fronts. And I understand why trans women and, the drag queens did their makeup that way, but it didn't necessarily need to be transferred to biological women. And we need to unpack the reasons why gay men and black women themselves feel they need all of that extra to be beautiful. It's a lot of anti-blackness going on there that we are afraid to call out, but we always talking about homophobia and transphobia. And yeah, we also use a lot of their slang, me included. And quite frankly, we sound dumb as hell using some of it. So that's something else we need to fall back from doing as well. And now they're accusing us of appropriating them and blaming us for black men harming them. You see how black women get blamed for literally everything in this community, everything that goes wrong in this community? And black women have made the gays so comfortable that we can't even give any valid criticism about them without being accused of hating them or harming them. That's how bad it's gotten. And this is not to say that black women are perfect. It's not to say that many of us aren't homophobic, but there's usually always a one-sided conversation about us being homophobic and what we are doing to them, never what they do to us. So I'm just going to continue to encourage black women, put yourselves first, center your own plight like they do theirs. If they can get on stage and say that they are the blueprint and always go on and on about taking your man and talking about your hair texture and your vagina and get to hide behind homophobia and transphobia when they get called out about it, we need to stop caping so hard for them, just like we do other black men. Because as we can see, they're a lot like them in many ways. And I predict that it's going to get worse. And I also saw where Lisa Ray pretty much dismissed what Santana said. I think Vivica Fox or one of the other ladies on the panel said that she would be upset if Santana said that about her grandbaby. And Lisa Ray said that would never happen because her granddaughter does not have nappy hair. And Lisa Ray has been problematic. It's very obvious that she doesn't care about this because she does not see herself or her granddaughter or her daughter in the women Santana was talking about, which most women with her phenotype don't. So it's not surprising. Yet somehow she is able to sit on a show and be the representation and voice for black women. Just like gay people, black women will throw our support behind light-skinned women, help them advance in their careers, all for them to throw our image under the bus every chance that they get. And I don't know how long it's going to take for black women to act in our best interest and stop elevating people who think they're better than us and would never support us like we do them. But this is embarrassing. There's tons of black women who still follow Saucy Santana and Lisa Ray and other colorists and featurists and men and women who disparage us, and we wonder why we keep taking L's out here. And I'm happy that my platform and other platforms are waking more black women up, but it's still too many of us supporting some of the worst people in the black community and in the black media. Because if we were really on our job, Lisa Ray wouldn't even be up there. Saucy Santana wouldn't even have a black female following. So it's clear that not enough black women think like the ladies over here in my camp. And that's why I encourage you to share this video, share my videos to the Black women who need it so we can get the message out to more Black women and stop allowing people like Lisa Ray to represent us. I know that Ice Cube put her on, but we also support problematic niggas like him. We are the primary demographic that watch their movies and their TV shows. Without us, they don't have jobs. And more Black women need to burn the cape because this is ridiculous. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on the topics I covered in this video down in the comment section. Also, let me know if you want me to do more podcast style videos in the future, and I'll catch up with you in the next one.